Bradley Jones, team principal at Team Blockmate, just about to start the warm-up lap. Bit surprised. Cromley, Larko and Scafie have been on the pit lane trying to sell the concept of starting with one of the main drivers. No one's taken it. We're clearly not good salesmen, but gee, it's worth a deliberation, isn't it?
Well, Dean Fiore's going to start in his car, and I think it is. I mean, I tried to talk a couple of my guys into it, but I couldn't get any traction. I think that what the killer is if there happens to be a caution after 36, then you neutralise what's going on, and then your main driver's in for the distance, so you don't expose your international. But you know, when you're down the back, for me, if there is no caution, then you could be in a good spot. It worked for us at Phillip Island with Barks, and I think it could work here.
Well, we don't know what it's like to be down the back, but we might just cross back to Neil.
He knows a lot about that.
Oh, dear. You would have known that was coming.
Oh, that was cruel.
He's just standing here shaking his head, folks, in the commentary box, because you've seen that movie about a couple of thousand times.
I'm just going to do my best Marcel Marceau here, and everybody else can figure out what I'm thinking.
Is it Groundhog Day for you with that comment?
It's always Groundhog Day. This is Christian Klein, Austrian, in the Aston Martin sports car program, Formula One experience, driving for Rod Nash, Bottle Racing, Ford Performance Racing Falcon.
So Brad Jones touched on the fact that he thinks Dean Fiore's going to start for car 12. It hasn't clicked on the register yet. It will when they go out for their formation lap. And Sebastian Bourdais didn't mess around heading out after getting the official go-ahead from our race director, Tim Schenk, and the voice that you heard on the radio. So pretty much all the international drivers are in the hot seat. We'll be able to clarify that for you as we take a look at the Fuso starting grid from pole position back-to-back for Jamie Whincup. That's a $20,000 weekend already after getting both poles on the day and getting the $10,000 bonus. Car 2 starting alongside them. The second row of the grid, Mark Winterbottom and Richard Lyons, the Irishman, and Will Davison and Mika Salo. Both those guys on the podium yesterday. Mika takes a surfboard back to Finland. Richard takes a surfboard back to Ireland. Lowndes and Priaulx and Steve Owen and Boris Said. Positions 7 and 8 belong to Greg Murphy and the Brit Oliver Gavin. A Frenchman, Simon Pagenaud, is paired up with Lee Holdsworth this weekend. 9 and 10, James Moffat and the American Joey Hand. David Reynolds and Alex Tagliani. We know him well on the streets of Surfers Paradise. Met his wife here. 11 and 12, Michael Caruso and Augusto Farfus Jr. Alex Davison and Mark Lee didn't get away to a good start yesterday. The German Mark, he got punched around all throughout the race. Let's see how they go today. You've touched on Christian Klein. There's 15 and 16, Patrick Long. Look out for him and Fabian Coulthard. Jan Magnussen with Russell Ingall for the Super Cheap Auto Racing entry, car number 39. Todd Kelly and Richard Westbrook for Jack Daniels Racing. The Gears, Emanuele Pirro. Jonathan Webb and Gilles de Ferran. Tony D'Alberto, Hispania Racing Team's Antonio Liuzzi. Fresh off the Formula One circuit out of Korea and playing here on the Gold Coast this weekend. Steve Johnson and Dirk Muller. And Tim Slade and Elio Castro Neves for position 22. There's James Courtney and Darren Turner. Did a good job yesterday. I can tell you that car number 14 of Jason Bargwanna and Alan Simonson is in pit lane. Check out more on that. Jason Bright and Stefan Sachazen, he told me is how you say it. Dean Fiore and Gianni Morbidelli. 27 belongs to Warren Luff and Marino Franchitti, and Carl Reindler and Fabrizio Giovanardi bring up the rear of the grid.
Do you need a cough lozenge? You okay?
I went and asked him on the weekend. I said, you tell me how to pronounce it. He said, Sachazen. So, Sebastian Bourdais at the front. Winner yesterday. Dean Fiore, we can confirm, is in car 12. And he's the only one. He's the lone soldier out there. Warren Luff's entry with Marino Franchitti also coming into pit lane.
Green flag.
But let's focus on the front.
5 seconds.
Bourdais versus Briscoe, same as yesterday. Behind them, Richard Lyons and Mika Salo. Andy Priaulx and Boris Said on the third row of the grid. Away we go. And Briscoe has missed it. So Briscoe goes from second back to fifth, if not sixth. And yet again, Sebastian Bourdais, although this time he's got company going down to the first one. Company in the form of Andy Priaulx, who's got a really good start.
And Farthus went backwards hugely. In fact, I think he stalled and had to restart the car. There he is. He's dropped back halfway through the field.
What a start from the Frenchman Bourdais. There's Boris Said, Oliver Gavin. Round this back chicane. So 7th position.
In the wall, cleans in the wall in the Bottle car. And do they all manage to scramble around? That's the question. Massive damage. This will trigger a safety car.
Safety car, Ryan. Safety car. We've got the track blocked about. Track is blocked to be safety car, mate. The engine off, please, Christian. Shut the engine off, please.
It's Dave Patterson, engineer, there in the foreground.
Remember it last year, it happened to car 55 as well with Jacques Villeneuve in the seat that time around. So, yeah, that was pretty heavy impact. I think Darren Turner may have just come past and rubbed the front of that car on the way through, but I don't think he did any damage.
Okay, Ryan.
Good news is that Christian is okay, straight into the medical car, and he'll be whisked straight back to pit lane. But safety car first time around.
I think car 1 did actually make contact with it. Paul Dumbrell looking on. It's a very fast chicane. It's about 150 k's mid-corner speed, even on the opening lap. So there's car 1, damage to the left-hand front.
They've had some drama with that car. We saw earlier in qualifying electrical problems, which they think they've now resolved. There was part of the wiring loom was chafing. Car had a misfire, but he was buried down the order, so it's going to take a moment just to get this car clear. It's parked at right angles to the racetrack. And so a couple of other things happened there in the flurry, and also he's been back in since then, car number 14. So Alan Simonson's come in here in the Jana Living Jason Bargwana entry. It looked like there was a problem initially when he came in, but it looked as though all they did was put some fuel. We'll have a look and see what happens here. Focus on the Bottle car, and
it's Magnussen.
Got him.
Yeah, so car 39, super cheap auto entry. Magnussen sharing with Russell Ingall. He's in the GM Corvette program in the US.
Yeah, so Magnussen went across the chicane, and as Christian Klein came back.
How close was that for Darren Turner? He did pick up a little bit of damage as he scuffed across the nose of that car. That's given the barrier a big whack down there as well.
He knows the day's over. Brett?
Paul Dumbrell, you've had a chance to look at it. We spoke at lunchtime. You had big plans for today. That's not good.
Yeah, no, certainly not. Obviously, the driver, Jan Magnussen, was the only bloke who wasn't listening in the driver's briefing and saying whoever got to the 100-metre mark into the fast chicane would yield. Obviously, getting into the rear quarter panel isn't sort of passing the car. So disappointing day for Team Bottle and Autobahn. So let's hope car 5 and car 6 can get a double podium again later today.
Okay. Tough on Christian Klein too, because he's done a good job.
He's done a sensational job. Yesterday he moved, did a terrible job in qualifying. He moved from 23rd to 9th and didn't do a great job this morning myself. And he had a good start and kept out of trouble. And it's disappointing for him to come all this way and for us not to get a podium.
Heartbreaking, Paul. All the best.
All right, thank you.
So good point there. Paul Dumbrell, what he was saying is from the chopper shot that we've got, you can see that on the approach to the chicane, there's a 100-metre marker and you need to yield. Whoever's in front has right of way. So big accident on the opening lap. The Gold Coast streets.
Okay, mate, we're going to plan to pit this lap. There's going to be another lap of safety car. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and put fuel in again. So when you come in, just go to trim 1 at the end of this lap. So trim 1 and then pit this lap, fuel line 80 now. Over.
Okay, copy that. Last turn and coming into pit lane.
Okay, mate. Nice and easy. Stop on the mark. Going to fill fuel only. Go, go. Okay, 0 the fuel, please. 0 the fuel.
Well, this is what happens when you lose communication. You've got to go back to the old school at the Toll Holden Racing Team. Still under safety car conditions here. The Pettis safety car has control of the field, which is led by Sebastian Bourdais. The other team Vodafone car of Andy Priaulx and Craig Lowndes is second. Richard Lyons third. That's where the big incident took place. Now, they've removed the car that you can see, obviously, but I tell you, there's a fair bit of junk on the circuit, and one of the concrete barriers has actually been moved somewhat, which gives you an indication of the force of that crash.
Yeah, that's why I made that remark before, that because of the angle that it went in, look at the damage that it's done. I mean, they're very, very big, solid things, so it gives you some indication of the force of the impact there. Another very good start by Bourdais. Not easy cars to get away from the line when you don't spend a lot of time in them and trying to perfect the starting process. And Priaulx, great start as well. So both the Team Vodafone guys ticking a very important box at the beginning, and the guy that lost a heap of ground, which you identified at the start, Matthew, was Ryan Briscoe. So we're looking at Garth Tander early on, and he's going to have a bigger job this afternoon to recover from that. So that safety car in pit lane means that we're about to go racing once more.
Around the final turn they go. Bourdais has done this plenty of times on this circuit. And away he goes again. Priaulx behind him.
Love that shot. That's 265 kilometres an hour into the first complex.
That's a great shot too. Okay, Joey Hand now climbing all over the back of the Stratco entry. There's Patrick Long, the other American.
Car 39, Jan Magnussen, pit lane drive-through penalty for the contact with Christian Klenn up in the chicane. So no surprise there. We felt that that was coming, and a clear breach of information that was conveyed to the drivers in the driver's briefing about the right-of-way position going into that chicane.
A lot of pressure on two very composed and experienced men at the front. 1 and 2 on the road. Bourdais and Priaulx, 1 and 2. Their respective drivers, co-drivers this weekend are in the championship. Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes.
Just something to just keep an eye on that might end up being a talking point later in the race because of the way the start unfolded. Car 14, Alan Simonson, they've brought that car in now 3 times at the beginning of the race. Just keep topping it up. So they'll have snuck probably some of in the order of 8, 9, 10 litres back in the car. That could give them a dividend later in the day. We'll keep an eye on that for you.
Yeah, and the other thing you just have to keep an eye on that particular car, Neil, is they've got a bit of an intermittent problem. Nice move there. Intermittent problem. The car actually stopped on the grid. They saw it in Bright's car at the last of it, just stopped dead. So Barks is concerned what might happen at a pit stop. But all the same, good call topping it up.
Yeah, you called it, Larko, a good move. It was Ryan Briscoe putting it on. Boris said, you're looking out the back now.
That time through, Boris just didn't even look like getting through the chicane. He went right over the top of the traffic island. And this will be awkward. That was close for Pagenaud. He just pulled his nose out of there in time. The Frenchman in the Fujitsu car. He's driving Lee Holdsworth. Gary Rogers Motorsport, red and white Fujitsu entry. You've got to get your head around who's in these cars. The guy in the foreground is Boris Said, sports car and sometime NASCAR specialist. Certainly got great road racing credentials. That car's got a lot of understeer through the final corner.
K's down along that front straight, the VIP Pet Foods car.
Boris has just opened a new BMW dealership in the US, and he's this year at least probably more famous for his dust-up with Greg Biffle than anything else he's done on the racetrack. Those two traded insults, and then Boris threatened to go around and give him a short, sharp interview about what he thought of his fighting abilities. It's the second time I've seen him do that. That, for me, that's taking the mickey. You can't do that, and I'm sure race control's seen it. That's the second time I've seen him do that. That's just not on.
Ryan Briscoe's in front of him, a little bit of air between Briscoe and Sed, but you can see that Pagenaud is ready to pounce. Alex Tagliani is behind him in the David Reynolds Stratco car. There he is.
So Bourdais just easing up the margin a little bit. Problem here for car number 8. This is Sarrazin. He goes straight ahead. Muller very close to putting a scuff on the left side of that Jim Beam car again. Did the same thing yesterday. Just got away with it. And Stephen Johnson knows exactly what he's looking at there.
A big impact. Remember, they had to rebuild that car after the fireball at Bathurst. Pagenaud getting close enough now to give a few warning signals to Boris Sed. See what he does up at the chicane here this time. There's Briscoe.
This is the battle he's done. That's the third time I've seen him do it. Now, I'd be really surprised if that doesn't end up raising an eyebrow at race control. I mean, if you do it once, you could reasonably argue that you just mistimed it and you went in a little bit hot. But to basically turn it into a straight line means that the whole pit lane will be doing what Lee's currently doing there at the moment.
And in the meantime, Pagenaud's probably, I mean, he gets to see it every lap around. He's close enough soon to put him. Okay, there you go. So 2 hops against his name. They're giving him a warning. I thought Pagenaud was going to have a crack at him there on the exit of turn 15. Maybe down here. Another lap done. Bourdais leads the way by 1.4 seconds. Paul Morris, team boss on the top left. The VIP Pet Foods. And Lee Holdsworth, the partner of Simon Pagenaud at Fujitsu. Gary Rogers Motorsport on the bottom left. Paul's enjoying it, but the rest of the field will be going nuts if he does it again. It's almost as though it's not there to him. Well, he's showing no regard for it.
Well, I know what he's doing. He's got up to 6 of these lives, if you like, and he's just using them because it probably hasn't been defined that you can't do that until you reach the count limit. So, but I'm not sure that that was quite the intention, but I'm sure it'll be discussed, and it will be getting discussed at the moment. Here's car number 18. This is Joey Hand, American driver, BMW driver, and he did a terrific job yesterday. Really enjoyed the car. And we've talked a lot about James Moffat, but you need a good partner to be able to do the job. And Joey did the job yesterday. Fantastic effort. He's had a great year because he picked up a victory in the Daytona 24-hour. There he is. We go on board with him, driving with Scott Pruitt in the Grand Am program for Chip Ganassi. He also had a win in Sebring. There's young James, his teammate. He was on the podium at Le Mans in his class. Oh, that was actually, I reckon Boris touched the inside wall down there at turn 4 then. The way the car jumped and the little dust cloud that came up, I reckon he actually made concrete contact. Spit that out.
This is, again, let's have a good look here. I know the officials are looking at it. Look straight through. And the amount of gain that he gets is ridiculous. That's 3 or 4 car lengths on the Valvoline car behind.
Well, you watched the lap, and we've been following it from inside and outside the car, and this bloke will be steaming right now. You watch the lap. Pagenaud's all the way up to his rear bumper the whole way around. When they exit that chicane, Boris goes straight through it. Pagenaud does it the right way. There's 2 car lengths in it. That's the gain. Car 8 has found the runoff at turn 11.
So this is Sarrazin. He's gone straight ahead down there. It's a bit of a trick sometimes just to be able to grab, reverse, rock the car into position to be able to do it. So it's going to be a multi-point turn to get it pointed in the right direction there.
I'll tell you what, Andy Prio's not letting Sebastian Bourdais skip away like he did yesterday. There's only 1.5 seconds in it.
Bad sportsmanship flag has just been shown to Boris Said for what's going on in the back chicane. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you and keep you up to date. Back in a minute.
Good job, Simon. Have a drink, mate. Without making any change on the bar, I turned it. How much did it change?
Mate, perfect. Okay, looks like there's smoke coming out of the back of the car.
Can you hear me there, Ryan? Can you hear me there, Ryan? I can smell something in here. Go. You want me to pit? Go.
You hear me, Ryan? Bring in the pit lane, come in the pit lane.
Copy, coming in.
Team Vodafone lead the way here, but as we mentioned just before the break, Andy Prio is closing in on Sebastian Bourdais, the race leader. There he is, car 88, the Frenchman, driving with Jamie Whincup. Winners yesterday, started on pole. Prio and Craig Lowndes having a much better day than they did yesterday, but again, more problems for the Toll Holden Racing team, and Ryan Briscoe paired up with Garth Tander, forced into pit lane. Now remember, they had no communications either. The Bathurst winning car. So they've gone to work on that.
This car had a problem too. That's Marino Franchitti on the right, Warren Luff on the left, and it started to drop oil. They'd already brought that car in very early in the race to keep topping it up with fuel. Problem here also for car number 34. How close was that? This is Farfus again. He was in stripe earlier in the race, so it's been a fraught beginning for him. And Sarrazin has also been on the radio. He's alongside in the Team BOC car.
That, mate, copy that. Just get back into your rhythm. It's all right, mate. It's all right.
Did you get some help?
Yep. Yes, big time.
Richard Westbrook.
That will result in a penalty, you would think.
Now, what's interesting here is this little margin's tightened down, and in fact everybody's starting to zero in on Bourdais, so maybe the car setup isn't quite as nice as it was yesterday. It is notably warmer, a lot more sunshine on the road. Curious to watch the degradation of the tyres out there at the moment, but Bourdais now has got only a half-second buffer over his teammate, and the effect has been that both Lyons and Salo are closer. Even Ollie Gavin here in the Pepsi car is closer.
I think what it's shown, Neil, is with all the drama, you see the Magnussen, Pagenaud, all the hectic first laps that we anticipated before the start of this race. What it's shown is that those guys should have had the A guy in. I mean, it blows me away that you wouldn't put your top guy in and actually get a yield against those drivers.
Well, remember, Dean Fiore was the only regular driver to start. They started from position 26, now up to 17th. But there are a couple of casualties.
Well, I certainly understand it if you're at the front end of the field, but I think if you're anywhere from about midfield and beyond, it's definitely worth the try just to be able to break away from the group. It's a lot different dropping a driver in that's less experienced in these cars into an already existing race versus the standing start and all the congestion and traffic at the beginning. But anyway, it's what makes it interesting when everybody goes about this their own way.
Boys, I have Garth Tanner down there in the HRT garage with him, mate. Hard enough, Garth, when you got no radio comms to know what was going on then. So what is the drama?
I was broken an axle, so it's weird. You just don't break them. So obviously we'll change it. I don't know how long it'll take, whether it's damaged the spool or not, but in this game, sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the screen. Today we're the bug.
Yeah, mate, talk about it. And particularly when the car's actually got terrific pace. It is quick around here. That's what's more disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic quality speed, and the car was good in the races. We just don't get a run at it, so disappointing. But while I'm here, I'll say happy birthday to my niece Erin, and happy birthday to my Max as well. At least hope they're having a good day, better day than Uncle Garth.
Good on you, Uncle Garth. Cheers, mate.
Now that'll have championship significance, because we talked at the top of the day about him, that is Garth, zeroing in on Shane Van Gisbergen. Now they've also had a difficult qualifying, so they're a bit buried at the moment. They actually changed rear dampers, rear shock absorbers going into this race, trying to clean up the behaviour of the back of the car. Now Manueli's actually eased the car forward. He's up into 12th at the moment in the SP Tools entry. So 0.7 of a second still the margin. Bourdais to Prio, Lyons, Salo, Gavin, Said, Pagenaud, Lieb, Long, Joey Hand. That's the top 10.
And we'll watch this from the Kotire chopper, because Boris Said's on 5 strikes, if you like, going through the chicane. Remember, 6th is trouble. It's down here that he's just been going straight ahead, and he does so again.
Well, it's so far left of the marker that it isn't actually triggering.
Now Pagenaud is going to get him on the inside at turn 11. So finally, after all those laps, sitting behind him, watching him go straight through the back chicane, paying no regard whatsoever, Simon Pagenaud gets released from the VIP car.
And Matty, the biggest sigh of relief was from Lee Holdsworth. That's nice to see that move done, right?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was pretty frustrating before, because Boris was going straight over that second chicane curve using all 4 wheels, and they said in driver's briefing, the steward said, don't take the piss. I don't know what is taking the piss if that wasn't.
Mate, good luck today.
Thank you.
So you may have heard in the background, folks, that car 7, Richard Westbrook, in the Jack Daniels racing car that he's sharing with Todd Kelly, pit lane drive-through penalty for his part in the Farfus incident down the other end at turn 4. So there's his car 33 with Pagenaud. Boris Said now just opening the steering a little, and that lets Mark Lieb go through, and Pat Long's next in the queue to try and take advantage of that.
Lead at the front of the race. Honestly.
They've got to penalise him, haven't they? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
The lead at the front is now 0.7 of a second difference between Sebastian Bourdais and Andy Prio. And that car's now become a real handful for Boris Said. Like I said, he let a couple of guys go around, but he's just coming off turn 11 there. Looks completely unsettled. There's our leaders. Remember, the co-driver has to do a minimum of 34 laps. We're on lap 19. of 102. So 34 laps and then they can jump out. Whincup and Lowndes will be waiting to go toe-to-toe. Behind them, here's Richard Lyons, so Mark Winterbottom's partner. It's Mika Salo, who's partnering Will Davison. Oliver Gavin, the Brit, who's been really terrific this weekend, partnering Greg Murphy, the Pepsi Max crew. Simon Pagenaud with Lee Holdsworth. Here's Mark Lieb, Alex Davison's partner. There's Pat Long. There's Boris Said, Joey Hand with James Moffat, Rick Kelly's partner. In car 15, Jorg Bergmeister, and there's Darren Turner. Back to car 17, which is position 19 for Dirk Muller.
We can see that in our pit stop, so don't worry about the rear roll bar.
Augustus Farfus Jr. Richard Westbrook, who's just copped the penalty. So we've got 24 cars on the lead lap. And currently 3 out of play, being Marino Franchitti and Warren Luff's entry. Car number 2, Ryan Briscoe and Garth Tander, and Christian Kleen and Paul Dumbrell, the first victims of this Sunday race day here on the coast.
That's awesome. It's good to hear.
We're up to 5 shortcuts now, so one more and we've got a drive-through penalty, so you need to stay right away from the curbs. Yes, mate. Yes, and careful at 1 as well. Careful here.
Hope you're enjoying our coverage on a beautiful Sunday here in Surfers Paradise, the V8 Supercar Championship, the 22nd race of 2011, where our international drivers are all part of the mix. You've got to duck out this afternoon, make sure you take your mobile with you. Thanks to Big Pond Sport, you can catch our coverage of this race on your Telstra NextG device. So Sebastian Bourdais and Andy Priaulx lead the way for Team Vodafone on lap 23.
Okay, I really think about those curves. We can't afford a one more break, so let's just think about the curve,
Pit lane
please.
drive-through penalty for curb abuse, and we've just had another one issued to Morbidelli. So cars 12 and 21 have both copped a black flag for a pit lane drive-through penalty, but we haven't seen that for car number 49, for the VIP car, because technically it isn't showing a position of having exceeded the maximum, but it's been so far to the left on the traffic island that can't be counted.
Well, we're on lap 23, so 22 completed.
Okay, mate, well, just keep doing that. You're doing a good job. Last few laps have been good.
Straight through.
Exceeding the limit of the overuse of the curbs.
That was car 14 you just heard in the background. That's Alan Simonson in Jason Bargwana's car. And Muller, coming in here in the Jim Beam car, has been complaining about the rear brakes in the last couple of laps.
One of 5 DNFs yesterday, car 17. Take my hat off to these guys for the rebuild job that they've done on this car after Bathurst.
You're going to look at the brake pads at the back of that car.
So there's Alan Simonson, the Jana Living Racing Larco.
Oh, well, you can see down here on the Stevie Johnson car, they're actually putting some front pads in, a bit like Bathurst down here. The first set of pads I've seen go in.
Now remember, they had a brake change problem at Bathurst, so they're just urging him to pump the brakes. Not surprising there. There's another couple of these cars that I spoke of a moment ago that are serving pit lane drive-through penalties. We saw before Scott Jennings from SuperTube Auto Racing on the wall there as well, just warning Boris said no curbs. So they may have a radio comms problem with Boris.
Just do our best here, okay?
And the reason for this is that clearly there's a massive advantage in these sorts of corners if you use or overuse the curb and drive 4 wheels across the curb. The drivers were told in the driver's briefing that 2 wheels across the curb were acceptable, and we've got timing loops in those curbs to be able to detect if you run the car right over it. There's the front brake pads that have been changed in the Steve Johnson Falcon. So all the drivers being told to contain their enthusiasm with how much curb they use, and as a consequence a lot of the guys who we've already seen have had to travel through pit lane and have been penalised for overuse.
Yeah, just to further that pit stop with the brake pad change, Dirk Muller's complaining that the pedal's going to the floor, so he's got a long pedal, the car's not retarding its speed. The reason, I just said to Steve, well, you know, it's unusual that just brake pads would fix that, but rightly said it's going to take too long to bleed them, so let's change the pads, see if that fixes them. If that doesn't, well, then they'll be forced to bleed in the air that'll be out of the brakes, which is a much longer stop.
And that's effectively, that's the Trading Post Falcon, but as you can see, we'll see when Mika Salo gets to the brake down here at the end of the straight, when this happens, you'll be able to see where that's a little pump up, and you can see there the brake pedal depth. So how far the brake pedal travels is what Dirk Muller was complaining about in Steve Johnson's car. So when you get a long pedal, effectively the pedal has it feels like it travels basically double the distance that it would normally do, and obviously around a circuit like this with concrete walls everywhere, very, very dangerous. So they'll make a call on that car very soon. It's great pedal action, isn't it? It's a really good shot. You see the amount of gentle throttle application to get yourself stop it hard. This is the end of sort of the back section or the northern end of the circuit into Breaker Street.
About 7 more laps before it's reset again, okay?
It's the work of the man who's had 109 Formula One starts.
I think I've led you astray, Matty. I think it's Richard Lyons. So I said when it was Trading Post on the bottom of the driving suit there straight away that it was Mika Salo, but it's not. It's Richard Lyons. So very experienced sports car driver and accomplished touring car driver around the world. And you can just see there. Have a look at how severe this brake pedal action is now.
Vanessa Amorosi, who performed for us earlier, checking it out. So Richard Lyons certainly hasn't had 109 Formula One starts. He'd like the fact that we talked him up for it, though. And you've got Trading Post coverage on both Ford Performance Racing cars. And, you know, we're obviously focusing here on the internationals, but in terms of our championship, it's been a really good bounce-back weekend for FPR, especially with the soft tyres for Mark Winterbottom and for Will Davison. There's a pep in their step now. He's got the lights on for Alex Tagliani up ahead, who's a lap down. Oh, it's such a handful around here. So busy, this part of the circuit. I love this part of the circuit. At the end of the day, too, the sun's coming straight in their eyes. It's much lower, and that's where all the action happens.
Particularly when the tyre starts to get a little further down in its life, and later in its life it starts to slide off those second gear corners. So car 3, Antonio Liuzzi is also going to get a pit lane drive-through penalty for excessive use of the curbs.
Here's Bergmeister and Darren Turner. A late call-up. Arrived in the country on Wednesday and went straight to Queensland Raceway. Quick, get your gear on, Rick. Busted on live telly.
It's Ian McPhee in the foreground there, who looks after the tyres at Jack Daniels Racing. He's been managing racing tyres for about as long as I can remember. So he knows the game very well, and trying to make sure that they get the starting pressures right in the next incoming set of tyres at Jack Daniels Racing. And car 3, Liuzzi, is now serving that penalty there. Here's a little moment for Bergmeister, just locked it up momentarily. So he's just outside the top 10 at the moment in this car. And the reason for the urgency is he's getting pressure from this man. That's Darren Turner at the other end of that steering column, working pretty hard.
37 years of age, driving the Intercontinental Le Mans. Aston Martin, of course. So we're getting to that zone, that 34 lap mark, where the international drivers will step out and our regular drivers will step in. Championship on the line. Don't go anywhere. Craig Lowndes and co getting ready for their stints.
Last time they're going to do 35 because the lap clicks on the way out.
Good job, 47 is the lap down when you get past.
taking the curb overuse limit.
Simon Pagenaud, the Frenchman, in 6th position for Fujitsu Racing. And it's getting very close to pit stop time. Lee Holdsworth getting ready to jump in his car. Steve Owen about to take over the VIP Pet Foods entry at Boris Said. There's Greg Murphy. His partner's doing a terrific job. Oliver Gavin in 5th spot.
Look at this damage in the front right corner. So we heard Mika on the radio, and he's going to have trouble stopping that car. Certainly going to have trouble steering it. Taking all the pace out of it now, which is the right thing to do on board with him. This is the Finn. So he's driving with Will Davison. These guys have had a good run so far, but this is going to be a major drama for them, cost them a lot of time. In fact, he just needs to ease a little bit of pace out of her. He'll end up finding the wall here. And everybody will be on standby. They haven't reached lap 34, which is critical for the minimum time for the co-drivers. So if we did get something that triggered a safety car, they can't really take it at the moment.
Yeah, good point, Neil. That is the critical one. Will Davo was just getting ready to get in the car. Suited up, yep, lap 34. Mates, so the big chunk of time they're going to lose here. They're going to have to fuel this guy up and send him back out.
That's right, just one lap the difference. So Will Davison will have to wait.
Yeah, they've only completed 32. They're on 33. They've got to complete 34 before you can change drivers. This is what happened to Briscoe yesterday.
The rubber's just hanging in there, so this will explain, well, might not explain yet. It's obviously happened a little bit further back. And that's high speed too, because that's at the back end of the main straight, the bottom end of the main straight, going down towards the first set of chicanes. So he limps all the way through. He's on the rev limiter too. Look at that.
Push on. Only 2 more.
So Mika Salo.
They've got to be very careful doing that without the incompressible stands under the car as well.
And away he goes. He's not a happy man.
So he's got a set of tyres on there and filled it up. So that might end up putting them in a position where they have to leave him out there until there's another safety car. It won't necessarily be the case that they bring him back in after he clicks through the minimum requirement of 34. Of course, there's no reason why he can't do more. So we know one driver can do more than 2/3, and then by definition you can't do less than 1/3 with the other driver.
It's Joey Hand with Jörg Bergmeister and Darren Turner, positions 9, 10, 11 onto the track. Seb Bourdais now has a 2.6 second lead, so he's managed to get that advantage back over Andy Prio, who had closed the gap some 10 laps ago to within striking distance. Now it's drifted back out. Richard Lyons in 3rd. Oliver Gavin for the Pepsi Max crew in 4th.
Your speed, watch your speed. Percentage, throttle percentage.
So,
I'm going to get you out, so just take that helmet air and cool suit for me. Loosen those belts. Radio out.
here comes Lyons as well. So the regular drivers ready to go in as they enter pit lane. They click over their 34th completed lap.
So there's a bit of other black flag action on here as we watch Jamie about to climb on board here. This is the Frenchman Bourdais climbing out. Gilles de Ferran's just copped the pit lane drive-through penalty as Whincup drops in. 21 also Giovanardi. And there's an outstanding black flag for Darren Turner. There's something wrong with the bonnet of that car. So Richard Lyons out, Winterbottom in. Plenty going on.
shake of the head if you can hear me. Righto. Big gear, brother. Big gear. First gear. All clear, all clear. Up on the limiter. Up on the limiter.
No problems at Team Vodafone, as we've come to expect.
Go, 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 go.
Pagenaud.
Get it going.
Or is that Farfus out? No, that's Pagenaud out. So Lee Holdsworth goes in.
Go, 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 go.
So what they're doing here, they're not actually getting to the bottom of the tank because there's a range of around 45, 46 laps using the fuel burn numbers that we know in the 120 litre tank that Mark Larkham ran you through earlier in the telecast. But what they have done is tick a box about the minimum requirement for the co-driver. So now this is a changeover. James Moffat in, Joey Hand out, taking the insert for the seat with him, using a driver assistance so that the hot-tired driver doesn't have to fumble belts or any of the other connections. Rick Kelly in. Here is the Triple Eight car as well. So Team Vodafone now, Craig Lowndes in, Andy Prio out.
Okay. No, James, is that
We didn't get to see yesterday
okay, drop the car, go down into the shed, James.
was Craig Lowndes in full flight in race mode. And they're still stuck there at the Jim Beam crew. So they've got some problems there. They came in well before Craig Lowndes arrived on the scene. They'd already done the driver change and now they've got the Go-Jacks out.
You can't tell you exactly what it is, but I noticed they flung a set of pads in there, the same as Stevie Johnson. It's a bit of a panic here at the moment. We'll try and find out what's going on.
So that's a brake issue for both cars. James is at the helm, so there won't be a repeat of yesterday's grand result.
Manueli Pirro jumps out and Shane Van Gisbergen, the Kiwi, jumps in. Boris said, replaced by Steve Owen. And the Vodafone cars find their mark again.
Lowndes is in front.
Yeah, so he's grabbed him in all the shuffling here.
Sometimes the lap after, you get a gain for coming and doing the stop the lap after, and it's pretty lively. This is on. Wink up down the inside of Lowndes.
And once Lowndes realised he was there, he stepped aside.
And remember that Craig's on cold tyres, so it takes a little time to get the car fully up to speed. He just couldn't hustle it quick enough to hold his position.
Okay, thank you.
So just before the stops, there were only 17 cars on the lead lap. So a lot of those guys who chose not to put their A driver in at the start have put themselves out of the race before the first stop. Makes no sense to me.
Okay, so that's...
So he only just came out in front of him and very close down here. Oof, there was just a whisker, wasn't it?
So that's Lowndes rejoining out of pit lane.
And then with those cold tyres, he had a bit of a battle on his hands for the opening lap. So actually taking the brake rotor off. So they've got something weird going on here, haven't they?
Well, for both cars to have a brake drama, something strange, isn't it? And the second part of it is must have been when James got in and felt the pedal. He said, oh, you know, I can't drive it like that.
I heard Muller on the radio saying that the brakes were terrible in car 17 a little earlier in the day, probably 15, 20 minutes ago now.
Guys, Darren Turner in the #1 Commodore, the HRT car, has been given a pit drive-through penalty for curb hopping. Now, he has told the crew here that he did not hop the curb, he just hasn't done it. Somewhere the detector's gone off, and the team here are furious. The guys are just sending emails back to race control saying this did not happen, we're not going to serve the penalty, so keep an eye on that.
Yeah, you can challenge them. I actually heard the race director, Tim Schenken, talking about the loose bonnet on the car. I didn't hear him mention the curb, so I'm just not 100% sure of the source. It might be that they want the front guard and the bonnet resolved, that question on that resolved. So we'll get to the bottom of it.
Look at this, 33 versus 3. Lee Holdsworth is in the car. Antonio Liuzzi, I believe, is still driving the Wilson security entry. On replay, down here at contact for the Bundaberg rump car. Fabian Coulthard and Patrick Long. So So that little green light that they've got on there is meant to be switched off when the regular driver is in. We'll forgive them for not doing so because they've got their hands full. So Darren Turner's definitely in the car. There's Lee Holdsworth tucked in behind him. So they're challenging City Hall, the Toll Holden Racing team. Craig Lowndes, by the way, has just done the fastest lap of the race, 1:12.15, and now Holdsworth slides up on the inside of Turner.
So race control also just wanting to check what's going on with car 19 with the DeFerrin Webb car, because they haven't served their pit lane drive-through penalty, which was issued just prior to that car coming in for its stop. So I'm just looking at the information that's come from race control here at the moment, and just I raised the question before about whether or not it was a bodywork issue or whether it was the curb limit, and it is the curb limit, the reason for the penalty issued to car number 1 in terms of the way the official paperwork reads here at the moment. But the teams do have the opportunity to challenge this, and so that can be discussed after the race. It's part of the protocol. So Lowndes has now responded with that fastest lap. Now that he's in and settled, got those temps and pressures all up to speed on that car.
This car, of course, still has to come in for a driver change. Mika Salo still behind the wheel. Will Davison still waiting.
They're still changing pads and discs down here on Moff's car, but what I want to show you, if you just follow me out the back, I want to show you the discs that they've just pulled off the car. There's Stevie Johnson having a look at the moment. If you drag this disc up now, look, these are the hats that mount the disc to the wheel, if you like, on the making face. This is the disc, and the disc is joined to the hat. Well, these little straps in here, I don't know if you can hear right in there, Dave. Look, all the little straps are broken. And I look at this disc, and the same thing, all the little straps are broken. When they break, the disc starts to float around like this and pushes the pads back into the caliper. So when he goes to put his foot on the pedal, he's got to push it all the way to the floor so that hydraulic pressure can push the pads back. Now that's really rare. These guys use water on their brakes to cool them in the race. Not seen that one before. That's dangerous.
We'll explain, Larko. That got to the bottom of it very quickly. So Jamie Whincup has control of this race. A big crowd here. More than 180,000 people have turned up for the Armour All Gold Coast 600 this weekend.
That's what I'm talking about. Great work, mate. driver change, repeat the driver change.
Team Vodafone 1-2 at the moment. Whincup leading Lowndes. Mark Winterbottom is in third as we head towards the halfway mark of this race. 300 kilometres, long, hard day. Now the trouble brewing at the Holden Racing team between them and officialdom is continuing. You'll remember before the break we were talking about how Darren Turner, as Craig Lowndes gets pretty close here to Whincup, Darren Turner in car 1 has been informed of curb hopping. Now they've got straight on the email, the local area network, and look at that, the penalty stands or the car will be excluded. That was the response. The Brett is down there.
Yeah, we might just get some reaction from James Courtney. JC, this is very tough on Darren Turner. What's the line at the moment?
Looks like the sensor was playing up and now they've switched it off. So we got done. I think a couple of other cars got done. So pretty disappointing. Darren had done an awesome job and then to be slung with a penalty like that. And it's obviously not our fault because they've switched the whole system off now. So disappointing.
Safety car.
Mike, it's safety car now. Mike Henry, the team boss, is with me. Mike, not happy with race control.
Oh, look, it's one of those things, isn't it, mate? You know, we're not too sure the system's fully operating as we expect it to. We're trying to do our best. All we're doing at the moment is we're into the driver every lap, trying to get him off the curbs. It's compromising our race speed. The cars in front of him appear to be taking a lot more curb, but they don't appear to be getting the sense. So, and then if you look at it, all of a sudden it's not working completely. So we're not too sure. We asked to have our penalty delayed. We had to take it. So, you know, if we're breaking the rules, we're going to do it, but we're just not too sure we actually did. That's one of those ones you'd like to confirm afterwards, rather than doing it in the middle of the race and compromising our day, really. Thanks, mate. No worries, mate.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, Mike Henry there, almost copying it on the chin. I mean, he absolutely stood up for his driver via the email system. You saw the response. Penalty stands or you're out of the game completely. Now, we have a safety car on the circuit, and this will explain why. No, this is another incident. Augusto Farfus, and he has found the wall. Steve Owen there as well. So Petter's safety car has been called out. I understand there's debris on the circuit. Wow.
How many laps down are we, Sam?
Steve Owen will be penalised for that, I would think. Made contact very late on turn-in into turn 1. And put Farfus in the fence.
It's an interesting situation. What's going on with car 1 there? Exceeded the curb hopping limit. Darren Turner was absolutely sure that he hadn't. There's some debris sitting smack bang in the middle of the track. So we'll have to get an official out there to grab that. In the meantime, let's take a break with Jamie Whincup leading this race.
Matty, did you shake your head if you can hear me? Matty? Yes, you can hear me. Okay. Okay. Be careful, boys. Into a tear off. Watch your gun down here, Jono. Come on, boys. Hurry up, Gaz. We're nearly there. Hurry up, Gaz. Okay, going down. Wait for Gary. Okay, go. His brother Blaze. Blaze on as fast as you can.
Spun out. Ah, well.
You're in front of the safety car. Press on and form the queue. Okay, mate. Copy that. No problem. So press on as hard as you can. Some people are coming into pit this lap. Press on. Okay, again, please. Steve, you've got green tyres, bring them in gently. Go hard, go hard, go hard. Going for a restart, they're going for a restart, so it's green. Safety cars in this lap, Steve, safety cars coming in this lap.
Back in time here for the restart of race 22 with Jamie Whincup leading the way from his teammate Craig Lowndes. There are 17 cars on the lead lap at this stage. On lap 47 out of 102. Third in the queue, you'll see there is car 34, but he's out of the loop a couple of laps back. So Mark Winterbottom is actually the third positioned car. There he is, car 5. That's Greg Murphy, who's position 4.
Whoa. What's going on there? That's strange, isn't it? It was
at the restart.
I think he's getting rid of all the pickup. Yeah.
Pickup on the tyres, which it's just rubber attaches itself to the tyre, and it gives you the feeling that you've got a massive imbalance in the car, and sometimes the steering will shake, feels like you've got no grip. So he might have been just trying to flick some of that off the tyres. What's been interesting is that Lowndes has just, remember that very aggressive move by Jamie to grab Craig while he could, while Craig had cold tyres. Well, Lowndes has just been getting a little closer, a little closer, a little closer, putting a lot of pressure on.
Yesterday, Craig Lowndes couldn't do anything but watch his teammate take away that championship lead. Today, he's in a different position. He can now fight for points. West Track car's gone off the road. Now rejoins the road.
So this is Morbidelli, and now remember that Fiore started in that car. Lee Holdsworth having to take evasive action across the curbing, the chicane in the back straight.
Indeed, Fiore got to 4th position on the track before those stops. So did a good job, actually. Oh.
So Morbidelli crunched into Alex Davison.
Race Control's also looking at a fluid leak here for Todd Kelly in position 19, car 7. He's been sharing with Englishman Richard Westbrook. So 12-7 apiece for both Whincup and Lowndes. But the other interesting thing out there at the moment is Winterbottom's very fast. He was half a second faster than both the Team Vodafone cars, and the Vodafone cars are about to find a bit of traffic. So we may find that Winterbottom can get in touch with these guys as a result of this. We'll watch that carefully. There he is in the background. He's behind car 34 at the moment. Michael Caruso's at the helm of the Fujitsu car.
Darren Turner, the great curb hopping debate continues. The emails have been flying between the team and Race Control. Did you excessively curb hop out there?
Well, from my driving position, I looked like I was doing less than the guys in front, and you know, I'm getting the radio message saying you've hopped the curb again, and I'm like, well, I'm doing half what these guys are doing, and you're trying to keep it on the track, but you've got to use some curb, otherwise you just run out of road. So it's really frustrating. We had a good race up to, I think we're 13th or 12th or something like that before we got the penalty. So it was, you know, from 23rd on the grid, really happy. And oh, that's great. done a good job for the Holden team and going to hand the car over to James in a good position. But yeah, very disappointed. You know, it's obviously new technology, and that technology maybe not proven yet, and it's affected our race. So yeah, it's just disappointed really.
Apart from that, Darren, you look as though you're enjoying those opening laps, the bump and grind.
Yeah, I love it. It's you know, I was quite fortunate. I stayed out of most of the contact out there when I think Christian Clean had a spin and I tagged him as I was coming through. But other than that, it's just a bit of rubbing, so no more than that. And it was good fun.
Well done, Darren. Great to have you here.
Thanks. Cheers. Thank you.
Car 49 has served a pit lane drive-through penalty as well for a driving infringement. So Steve Owens at the helm now. He's just gone through the lane. Meantime, this little battle continues to boil. There's Winterbottom in the background. He continues to show very good speed. He's a couple of tenths quicker in the first sector than the two leaders. Just traffic congestion's amazing. So Greg Murphy, position 4, car 11, Pepsi Max crew, just whacking the tyres there in the right-hander in that final northern complex. Very easily done. We talked about this yesterday, Mark, and there wasn't a lot of evidence of it yesterday, but it looks like because I would say the tyre deg's up a little bit today, the pace is a bit quicker, the temperature's hotter, but if you're a couple of millimetres off the racing line at the moment, it's so grubby out there.
Absolutely, and Greg got caught there at turn 13. It's only a reasonably slow right-hand, it's about an 80k corner, and as soon as he got a little wide, he ran into that tyre barrier on the outside. Craig Lowndes straight through the chicane, couldn't get it stopped. Pretty healthy battle these two blokes are having. Obviously championship leaders and leading this race in first and second position.
Croppo spot on about Mark Winterbottom. He was fastest of the top three that last time around. He's edging closer and closer to the rear of car 888. He was very happy with the performance yesterday of his teammate.
It's going to happen again.
Will Davison alongside Gianni Morbidelli. So yeah, and the pace came to Mark Winterbottom at the right time yesterday at the back end of that race.
So in car 39 at the moment is Russell Ingall. Another 2 penalties coming. 34 and 8. So 34 is Caruso, 8 is Brighton. The reason is they're supposed to, when they're lapped and the safety car's deployed, they're supposed to transit the pit lane so that they don't tangle up with the leading cars, and they failed to comply. So they'll now have to go through the pit lane. So Caruso has just done the fastest lap of the race, 1:11.8.
50 laps to go, position 14.
Fastest lap and the lap record was set late in the race yesterday when James Moffat was on the tear with those good tyres, 1:11.3. So 1:11.8 to this stage, the quickest done by Michael Caruso. Just sense some ugliness around here.
One of the hard things about this track and just the changing rhythm of it last year and this year is that, especially for the newcomers, there's just so much going on here. There's really no place where you're resting. It'd be interesting to look at a steering trace, but I reckon there'd be very little of the time where the steering wheel's in the absolute straight ahead position. You're always doing something around here. So trying to drive your car quick, even on its own, is quite a challenge. Wrestling other cars, particularly if you're not one of the fastest and you're looking around for all that's going on. That's the reason why you're seeing these weird things happen down at turn 4, for example, because you're flat out trying to drive your car. Next minute, hang on, here's someone up the inside that you don't know is there. That's right.
Yeah.
So this relates to the issue I spoke about before. So 34, Michael Caruso is going to have to drive through the pit lane because he was more than a couple of laps down when the safety car was deployed. I'm just using the same words as the race director, Tim Schenken, on the race management channel. So there's obviously some discussion about it now. Jason Bright is serving that penalty as I speak. So they've had a horrible day.
They haven't looked, in terms of speed, good enough all weekend, have they? No. There've been times this year where they've been really good.
So Davison up to 12th, 11th now as a result of that move. This is, meantime, the pressure that's all occurring at the front because that margin, that air gap between the two Team Vodafone cars and Mark Winterbottom just continues to shrink.
So past the halfway mark of today's race, 50 laps to go. Let's see who is quickest this time around of the top three, all pretty even. 112.39 for Whincup, 112.25 for Lowndes, and 112.24, and Morbidelli has found the wall.
This could trigger safety car if he can't move that. Oh, he's actually mobile at the moment, but this will be very difficult because he's against the traffic here and he's got to rotate the car, and there isn't enough steering lock available on these cars to just comfortably do that. So he's got to try and move it and either flick spin it or go back up into the escape road, the previous corner. No, it is a safety car.
We have a car stopped extra turn 12, I understand. Safety car scramble, present leader is car 88.
He's ended up backing into the fence. He actually got spun. He was clear as it was reversing back. He had lock on it and it's backed into the fence. Now this is the critical lap number right now. So this is now everyone in safety car and the whole of this pit lane.
And it will be congested and people will have to queue. So this will be a repeat of Bathurst here because they'll have to bring Lowndes in and he'll have to queue behind Whincup. So this, watch out for this to hurt Craig Lowndes, and they've been warned about any funny games on the way into pit lane, slowing everybody up in the driver's briefing prior to this racing weekend. So look for a gain here for Winterbottom. As 2 into 1 does not go for Team Vodafone here.
So Winterbottom goes into his pit bay. Whincup does so as well, but Lowndes has to sit and wait.
Big roll centre adjustment on Whincup's car. Look at the scorches down the left-hand side. Remember, we saw that up at turn 13.
Oh, look at all this. Look at it all.
Here comes Winterbottom, so he's going to slot into second position.
And now they serve. This will kill Lowndes. He's just going to drop 5 or 6 or more spots here.
Lee Holdsworth goes up.
Oh. Big nose-to-tail contact involving Coulthard and Davison. Just as they exited frame on the pit lane exit there. And now Lowndes is serviced and away he goes. So that is just...
That's going to put him into 15th. From 2nd to 15th. Hasn't quite rolled out yet.
So we want to do like boxes.
It's interesting too that Dean Fiore started this car. Car 8 is parked of Jason Bright. He's made contact apparently.
Hang
on. Oh dear.
He's driving the wrong way. So he's driving the reverse direction to the racetrack, to a corner that you can't see around, to Jason Bright coming.
So he was positioning to do a flick spin, and
so there's lots of chaos down here in the pit. We're going to...
Front left wouldn't come off.
Can't get it off.
There we go.
So I believe the only car in front of
and then he just... I thought he did something weird there. Yeah.
They've left it there.
Leave it.
So that we'll have to watch that later. So that car will be terribly unbalanced for Greg. Couldn't get it off. And remember, they had a drive peg problem at the Jack Daniels car with Todd Kelly at Bathurst, which Mark Larkham explained to us several weeks ago for the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000. So there's something weird going on with their hubs down there at Kelly Racing.
So when all this is rolled out, it's not quite as bad for Lowndes. He's 12th.
Jason Bright is just sitting there shaking his head. He cannot believe that coming around the circuit under a safety car, he's run into another car coming the other way. And that was one of the things that we were discussing. Dean Fiore, the regular driver, starts, and then all of a sudden, Gianni Morbidelli is the only guy effectively out there in the middle of all our regular drivers going hell for leather, makes a couple of big mistakes, and it's been catastrophic.
Well, Brad Jones, there's bad luck, Brad, and there's bad luck. That is unbelievable.
Just before the safety car, I was going to tell you.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Just having such a terrible weekend, and then, I don't know what he was thinking, to tell you the truth, but, and then, of course, we didn't know what was going on. He shut it down and won't start again, so it's just not a great weekend for Team BOC.
Thanks, mate.
I can't believe that.
Exploit it as much as you can.
One of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. This bloke's telling him to spin it around.
Yeah, so he's been actually cued because you can't see around the corner. So in fairness to Morbidelli, he got a visual cue then from someone through the fence saying you're okay to rotate the car. Now, he doesn't know that because he can't see around the corners.
Oh dear. Fuel everywhere.
It's a seriously dangerous moment there. So they've got the retardant on the job very quickly. Whew. So that was Jonathan Webb in the Mother Energy Falcon. So in fairness to Morbidelli there, he was being given a cue, drive the car, do the rotate, spin and go again, but that person had their back to the traffic. How would they know whether Jason Bright was coming?
Yeah, that'll be okay, mate, because obviously we're coming in again. Yeah, brake parade 3 will be okay. Yeah, so hopefully we can get 30 laps of green running before a safety car. Hopefully we can get a nice long stint before a safety car. Copy that. Stand by. One more lap, mate. One more lap under safety car.
That's how you have some fun on a Sunday afternoon here at Surfers Paradise. Cool off, peek over the balcony, have a look at these V8 supercars roaring around the circuit under Petter's safety car conditions. And this race has been turned a little bit upside down. Jason Bargwanna and Will Davison didn't go in for the pit stop under safety car, so they're out in front, but they're going to have to go in sooner or later. So let's take a look at the highlights of this race. On the left-hand side, Ryan Briscoe missed the start and went from second back to about 7th as Sebastian Bourdais got off to a flyer, and Andy Prio went with him down to turn 1. So good signs straight away for Team Vodafone, and that pretty much continued throughout the afternoon. Big contact though. Christian Clean put into the fence at the back chicane. There's Dirk Muller in a carbon copy replay from yesterday, but thankfully nowhere near as much damage as what happened when he hit the wall there. Richard Westbrook and Augusto Farfus Jr. coming together. Mika Salo went off his brain when this happened to him over the radio at high speed down the main straight. Whack, car 34 into the wall. Then Morbidelli gets turned around, or turns around and goes into the fence. Now he got a cue from the other side of the fence. Not his fault, he can't see what's coming. There you go. He's told to light it up and head off, but Jason Bright arrives on the scene and says, hang on a second, what's that car doing here? And Jonathan Webb comes in And fuel goes everywhere. They were right on top of that one, so no dramas there safety-wise. It was a scary moment. So the third restart of today's race. Bargwanna will be the first car out the front. Will Davison behind him. They're out of sequence. Jamie Whincup, therefore, is your effective race leader. Depending on what happens in between now and lap 102, of course. Safety car-wise.
It was a bad restart then from Bargwanna, and he's been exposed. Oh, and that's damaged the back of the car because it's had a contact on the way out of turn 4.
So Will Davison, Jason Bargwanna didn't come in on that last stop. That's why they held position at the top of the field. Remember, right back at the beginning of this race, I mentioned that the 14 car, the Jana Living car of Bargwanna, which at the time was being driven by Simonson, they kept bringing it in at the start of the race and squirting some fuel into it. So they're in a very different sequence. But Bargwanna immediately had his ears boxed at the restart down there at turn 4. So Davison's in the lead from Whincup, Winterbottom, then Bargwanna. But both Will Davison and Jason Bargwanna will ultimately need to come in to grab some fuel. But the rest of them, they should be fueled to the end.
There's going to be contact here.
Eyes forward, mate. Drive away from these places.
If they all get around these first couple of laps after the safety car, it'll be something of a miracle. They're so close together.
And just to tidy up that sentence, so Will and Jason, Davison and Bargwanna, that is, their current fuel situation could get them as far as about lap 90. More trouble down here at turn 4 for Bargwanna, just leaving himself a little exposed down there.
Best behaviour. So they've got around. There's Will Davison. There is Jamie Whincup. Then Mark Winterbottom. Heading towards another podium. Frosty and Richard Lyons. Winterbottom yet to win a race in 2011. He would love to do so here in the run home for the season. Big bumps on the exit of turn 11 through 12 and 13. They snake their way around to turn 14, where a big crowd is waiting and watching. So Will and Jason get together. Could have been a lot worse. And off they go again. Main straight. Flat out, 265 Ks.
So a couple of pit lane penalties to come out also for driving infringement for car 3 for Tony D'Alberto. And we saw the contact in pit lane with Alex Davison. He's also being penalised. So he's in the heat of this battle here, just in behind. You can see the Irwin Tools Falcon just in behind Rick Kelly and Greg Murphy. He will have to do a tour, and that's the tour for Tony D'Alberto through pit lane. There's a big moment here. Oh, they got in there all right. That was James Courtney and Fabian Coulthard into the fast chicane. We saw that massive incident earlier. That's a very dangerous spot.
Now, the other thing to bear in mind for both Will Davison and for Jason Bargwanna, and it seems that Bargwanna's hurting a little bit more than Will. They've got slightly older tyres on the car as well. The car's a little lighter, but they won't have quite as much grip, so it kind of balances itself out.
Second on the road, but that's where the action is in terms of the run for the checkered flag at the moment. Still a long way off, more than 40 laps. So Jamie Whincup, 7 pole positions and 7 race wins for the season. Has the championship lead. Back from his teammate. Now has Mark Winterbottom on his hammer.
So this battle is a lively one, Matt. Mark Winterbottom's looked, in terms of speed, very strong today, and he's made ground on Whincup. So these guys are on the, I would say, the standard strategy. They come in at that critical lap number that we spoke of, whilst Will Davison slightly out of phase with that strategy. He's just pulled away about 1.5 seconds on this group, which is second and third. Right behind is Lee Holdsworth. Bargwanna's just falling backwards a little bit, and there's a very lively battle with the teammates, with Rick Kelly and Greg Murphy. Rick Kelly on the radio saying, "You're holding me up." So that'll be interesting to see how that gets resolved in a second. They're 6th and 7th.
Riding with Winterbottom now. He was the winner of the last single driver race we had here in 2009. Some discussions going on in pit lane. The SP Tools Racing, Shane Van Gisbergen and Manuele Pirro. This is close.
Oh, gee, very defensive. Whincup there, moved it over very early. And
well, Winterbottom's got more pace at the moment. That's been evident for about the last...
A little bit of counselling for Frosty, because Lee Holdsworth is definitely part of this picture as well. So is Greg Murphy and Rick Kelly. There he is, Sebastian Bourdais has done a stellar job and would have to be leading contender for the Dan Weldon Memorial Trophy this weekend. For the best performed international driver, already one race win. He just rarely makes any errors. In fact, both of these guys, Whincup and Winterbottom, Jamie knew how critical it was for him to close the door on that last challenge.
Certainly did.
James Courtney, car 1, continues to punch his way back up through the field in 8th spot, tucked in behind Bargwanna. Fastest lap of the race just done by James Moffat, 1:11.784. But he is 8 laps down. And Rick Kelly showing some good pace as well. Russell Ingall now goes past Bargs. Fabian Coulthard next in the queue. So Russell up to 8th. The Enforcer's a 4-time winner around this circuit. Sebastian Bourdais there, continuing to keep a close eye on things out of Team Vodafone. So now fastest lap belongs to Rick Kelly. He's in 6th spot. So it's Will Davison leading the race, but he will have to stop before the end of it. So Jamie Whincup in position to go back-to-back with Bourdais.
So Will Davison from Whincup, Winterbottom, Holdsworth, Murphy, Kelly, Courtney, Ingall, Bargwanna and Coulthard. Lowndes is 11th. Just made the comment over the radio. Some of these guys are using a massive amount of curb. That looks like part of a sway bar or linkage, which has come off the curb there at turn 1, 2 and 2.
Yes, Kate, you did right about that curb usage. Just talking to Ross Stone from Stone Brothers Racing, he's quite annoyed and animated about it. As you know, the curb hopping on the timing device has been turned off. So he's of a strong view that a lot of the drivers are taking the mickey, using too much curb, and of course now it's it's more manual sighting, if you like, of curb hopping, which is a whole lot more subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly like Owen. There are judges of fact at the 2 places where they've been running over them, but they do need to be enforced properly. I mean, we saw Boris said just ridiculous amount of curb hopping in the first part of the race, and now Ingall's doing the same thing, so he's just driving straight across them.
And last time around he did a 1:11.075, which is a lap record.
We can do a lap record when you're
going straight
shortcut
through. Well, in that case, Boris said should have done about 10 in a row.
That's right.
It's just part of the game, isn't it? It's part of the race weekend that we've got. It's part of this circuit. You've got to try and police it somehow. The rules of motorsport are, once you put the rules up, they'll find any way to break them. So Will Davison and Mika Salo out in front. But Jamie Whincup and Sebastian Bourdais look as though they're heading towards another race win, but still more than 30 laps to go. Anything can happen here in Surfers Paradise.
Sportsmanship flag car 39, overuse of curbs.
Trip 2, thanks mate, trip 2 on the fuel. Okay.
Welcome back, live coverage of the V8 Supercars here at Surfers Paradise. It's turn 15 onto the main straight. On lap 70 out of 102. It's a bit of a waiting game at this stage of the race, especially for Will Davison, who cannot make it to the end of the race on the fuel that he's got. He's out in front, so it's just put your head down and keep going and pray for as many safety cars as there is, or as there can be. Craig Lowndes moves up to 10th spot. Remember, he was second when the last safety car came out as his partner in crime this weekend, Andy Prio. So he was second, but because he had to queue in pit lane and his teammate was in front of him, he came out in 12th spot. Just a killer. And now he's had to try and work his way back through the field. By the way, Russell Ingall has been given a bad sportsmanship call after completely ignoring the chicanes around the back part of the circuit, which helped him to a lap record time.
Matty, I just wanted to pick up on that point, mate, regarding the double stacking, because just so people understand at home, it seems pretty obvious why would you do that. I mean, first of all, there's pit lane length restrictions, so we're not long enough to have enough pit areas for dual cars. Secondly, there's equipment and infrastructure rules that only allow you to have so many rattle guns and a pit boom. And then thirdly, there's people restrictions. You don't have enough people allowed on the ground, on your crew, to service two cars at once. But Scafie, I wanted to ask you, it must be one of the toughest things. I calculated 45 seconds, mate. You stood still, double stacked at Bathurst. I mean, the trick's got to be keeping cool.
Exactly right, Larko. My therapist had just about forgotten about that. Still a little raw. It is very frustrating. I mean, you park there and you can't do anything about it. You know that there's less damage in terms of your overall race performance to come and do it. This was Lowndes at a nasty moment, across the curb. That's nowhere near enough of track, too much curb. So Craig will have to be careful down there not to end up driving down the pit lane if you keep that one up. But yes, queuing behind the pit, or behind your teammate in the pit, has a massive effect on the races, and clearly a big effect for Craig today, going from 2nd position to 12.
It's a great aerial view of this place. And it's such a spectacular venue that we've got. A gnarly little circuit. It's been condensed over the last couple of years down to 2.9 kilometres. You remember back through the years, we'd normally go further straight ahead. So now, down to turn 4. The beach will be on their right-hand side, up the back straight. 245 kilometres an hour up there to this back chicane that is featured prominently. Some have used it as a chicane, some have just kept the straight going. Down to turn 11. 200 kilometres on approach, back to 80. This little short shoot up to turn 12, the left-hander, and snakes around through the buildings, staring at the afternoon sun, up to turn 14, where there's always a healthy crowd. 181,486 people here this weekend. That's up 10,000 on last year's attendance. So that's one lap completed around the Surfers Paradise circuit. Takes 1 minute and 11 seconds that time around. So Will Davison continues to just punch away out in front. The two Ford Performance Racing Internationals, Icasalo on the left and Richard Lyons, fingers crossed, on the right. You're in a good position, Richard, because Mark Winterbottom is doing a stellar job. He's just holding on to Jamie Whincup. He knows there's a long way to go in this race. Very comfortable and confident with the car this weekend. On the podium yesterday, driving as always, smooth and professionally. So there's no real need for him to make a dive anywhere at this stage of the race unless it's absolutely clear for him. Steady as she goes, as steady as you can in a V8 supercar around this place. And they're just matching times. He's going sector for sector, lap for lap with Whincup.
Very close, the performance of these two cars. They've improved. The FPR guys have struggled on the soft tyre being used this weekend. And yesterday we saw a real improvement with 2nd and 3rd position. And that is again evidence today, with Winterbottom right behind Whincup now. That's down at turn 4. That's the southern end of the track. That's down towards the traditional centre of Surfers Paradise. And then back up this fast back straight to about 245k into this chicane, about 150k average speed. And this is back towards Breaker Street. This is turn 11. This is the main beach section. Over to the driver's right, or left of screen there, is Tedder Avenue. And you can see there's no margin, no room for error around a circuit like this. A final corner, we've seen a lot of guys go off and straight into the wall there, and the Armorals sign on the left-hand side and a run down the main straight. On board with Whincup, Winterbottom right behind.
So 111.43 for Whincup, 111.38 for Winterbottom. The previous lap he was also just a couple of hundredths quicker, but that's all there is in it. Now, down at turn 4. So that's as close as he's been. There's a little bit of push and shove going on. So now Mark Winterbottom has well and truly arrived at the back end of car 88. Maybe that patience that we were talking about in the last lap around, that need to not unsettle at this stage of the race and take a risk. Maybe that's gone out the window.
I think it has, Matt. Actually, I think he wants to get by. Because what happens around here, and we've heard a lot of the guys talk about it, is you get heat soaked. So the car, the braking quality, the engine temperature, even the cabin temperature goes up when you're riding behind another competitor at this sort of circuit.
And you get sick of the view.
Yeah, exactly. It's much better if you can actually see where the road goes rather than the back of a Vodafone sign.
Matty, this is probably the best seat in the house in between Mick Asala and Richard Lyons. Richard, you're riding along with Mark Winterbottom at the moment. He's doing a super job.
Yeah, he's doing an awesome job. Like, we know how quick the guy is, and yesterday he proved coming through the field what he can do. At the moment, who knows what's going to happen, but our fingers are crossed, and I think Mick is hoping that we're going to have a bit of a run-in with the Win Cup. I hope not.
And Mika, for you too, I mean, this has been a great recovery by your guys, given that puncture earlier on.
Yeah, it was a shame. I felt it a couple laps before, and I wasn't sure what was wrong with the car because I never had a puncture with this car before. So I thought there's a damper problem or something. And I was on the radio in the last corner and said I come in a bit this lap. And the last moment I decided I don't. I try one more lap because there was 2 laps to go for the mandatory driver change. So I thought I could survive until then. Obviously I didn't. So they blew up in the first corner, the braking, and it's a shame. We lost a lot of time, but looks good now. I'm hoping that these 2 guys, Win Cup and Winterbottom, fights a lot and we get a more gap.
Well, it looks really good here. Enjoy the rest of the race, guys.
It's funny, isn't it? Mika just wants to see a good toe-to-toe battle. And Richard's got everything crossed because he wants another surfboard from the podium. So replay here down at turn 4, Todd Kelly and Jason Bargwana coming together. Now, check out Craig Lowndes here. Ooh. Just launched off that curb. Really low. So 9th position now for Craig Lowndes. Trying to work his way back up through the field after having to queue in pit lane. Jamie Whincup, status quo for him. And Mark Winterbottom. The Winterbottom's now starting to get edgy.
Matty, I just want to grab a quick chat with Sebastian Bordeaux. I was just talking to Damien White myself, Sebastian, before you did. Clearly this curb hopping is an issue that's irritating.
Yeah, because we just instructed Jamie to try and keep at least 2 wheels on the track, and bloody hell, you know, everybody is just going through these chicanes like crazy. So I just told him, you know, it's like we're not going to give up a position just because we're trying to stay fair, you know, and that's a big issue right now. Plus, on top of that, it's getting ridiculous. People are 50 k's quicker than they were initially at the apexes. Somebody's going to have a big show.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think they've actually got to use someone as a scapegoat. They need to use someone as a scapegoat. They need to nail someone to show to the rest of the pit lane that you can't do it.
Yeah, but, you know, they're creeping more and more and more. So if they don't put a limit to this, for sure it's going to end in tears.
Thanks, buddy.
Let me tell you, he's one of the coolest customers in motorsport. For him, to hear him with that attitude in his voice, he's an upset character, and that's bubbling along pit lane. That's a really big issue.
No doubt, Matt. And what Larko and Sebastian had to say is absolutely fair. And the amount of curb hopping can only be 2 wheels across the curb. Stay tuned, plenty more action coming as this race closes down.
Mate, 24 to go, doing a great job. That's remaining races, 9 for 2, keep your head.
Clear here, clear here.
Welcome back. Sun starting to get lower as we get towards the back end of this 102-lap, 300-kilometre race. There's Tony D'Alberto with Alex Davison in front of him, so Alex position 17 with Mark Lieb this weekend, and Tony D'Alberto with Tonio Liuzzi, Formula One fame, alongside him. Apparently Tonio tried a bit of Vegemite yesterday for the first time in his life.
Did he?
He will never be trying it again. Fabian Coulthard's done a 1:10.98. Fastest lap of the race in 19th position.
Laps remaining,
and
21 laps remaining.
Back up to the front we go. So Will Davison is still out in front, but this is Jamie Whincup and Mark Winterbottom, and the reason why we're looking at these guys is because Will still has to pit before the end of the race. So while he's the first car on the road, he is not your effective race leader. And again, Winterbottom has a look, and again, Whincup shuts the door, but that means that he goes wider on exit. And Winterbottom will now be a little bit closer in the run up the back straight. Closer and closer. Won't be able to do anything through the chicane.
Everyone's taking more than you, take them off.
But it's going to be on soon. Whoa. Really soon. Has a look now. Can't get it done at 11. Sticks close on the run up to 12. Now swinging around the other way to turn 13. Nothing in it. Down to the final turn. He'll stick close again here and try and get a run out of 15. But Whincup is wise to it.
Remember this time last year we saw a battle like this with Van Gisbergen and Whincup. This is effectively for the lead of this race, and Winterbottom is putting a huge amount of pressure on Whincup. This is the spot down here after the first chicane, and Whincup, that's too much curb. Made a big gain then on Winterbottom. And when he dived down the inside last time, it was too early for Whincup to start covering, to start blocking. So everyone on the radio, FPR are saying too early to start blocking. At Vodafone, they're saying, no, cover him, cover him. So it's going to be very, very hectic. And here we go. This is Damien White talking to Adrian Burgess, because this is clearly all about how much curb can you take without being penalised.
He's the busiest man in Australia right now, Damien White. But Craig Lowndes is in 10th spot. What about the run from Greg Murphy this weekend and Oliver Gavin? So Murphy's in 4th position, but effectively that's 3rd. He's on the podium after being on the podium at Bathurst a fortnight ago with Alan Simonson.
Someone's had a major dive. That may have been Ingle. Had a major dive at Lowndes. Have a look at the damage on the back of Triple 8 car.
Oh, yeah.
Huge amount of damage.
Big chunk out of it. So I think I'm going to give up informing you on lap record times, because certainly not real lap record times. They're lap times without chicanes. But this battle between the Team Vodafone cars at the back end of the top 10, the front end of the top 10, is quite enthralling. Now Russell gives Craig some room to move, but Craig didn't accept it properly, and Russell gets the spot back. It was weird.
Well, I think he dived. We didn't get it from inside there. So the dive straight down the inside and then moved.
Andy says it's crazy. Andy Brio. This is crazy. He's been around V8 Supercars long enough to know. It's just that there's about 20 other drivers who have never been here before, never seen the view from the cockpit of our category, who will agree with him.
Yeah, just watching poor old Damien White, the V8 Supercar official, up and down pit lane here. He's getting smashed by every team owner here. Malcolm Swenson from DJR's just bowled him up. Absolutely livid over, where we are on curb hopping. They can't take the risk, and he's watching the vision of guys put 4 wheels over, then 2 wheels over. And we just saw there, Whincup gets away from Winterbottom using the curb. Winterbottom catches back up using the curb. I mean, difficult circumstances.
Okay, thanks, Larko. We're just watching exactly what happened with Lance. You're dead right. That was an almighty dive.
Make sure you have
And
your fires. Doing a great job.
Pay off. Roland Dane, steely-eyed.
And that was bad sportsmanship flag for Triple Eight for the curb hopping at turn 1 that we saw.
Well, see, this is the balance that, you know, officialdom's got to play, and I'm going to go on and on about it, but you have to police these guys somehow, because look what happens when you take away the cops. And they're just going to go for it. It's in their blood. That's what race drivers do. Lap 85 here at the Gold Coast. Take a break, bring you straight back for the action.
Okay, mate, 16 to go, 16 to go. Just do whatever you need to do on the curbs to make up time. You haven't had any warnings yet. Retires are done, retires are done. Go, 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 go. Good work, you're back on the pace of the leaders to the second sector there.
Game on here at the Gold Coast, and Craig Lowndes is a targeted man at the moment. He's slipping back through the field. That was David Reynolds just getting around him. Lowndes slips back to 12th. He's got some problems. Reynolds, Jonathan Webb, Todd Kelly now in front of him. There's Alex Tagliani celebrating that positional change for his co-driver David Reynolds. So Will Davison has now processed through pit lane, and that has cleansed the field for the end of the race, which means that Jamie Whincup is your race leader officially now from Mark Winterbottom. That's car 21 in front of them.
Great work, yeah.
Is it 12? Either way, they step around it. Lap traffic, we've got 20 cars on the lead lap. And some new boots coming for Craig Lowndes. So he's a bit of a passenger out there at the moment.
His rears are shot, he's in now.
He's now in, yep.
Left rear's got all that damage.
So this is how it stands. That will continue to change as Lowndes slips further down the field, depending on what happens to Whincup. Either way, the net result is that Jamie Whincup, pending any further disasters, will leave here as the championship leader. Now, Jonathan Webb's got some blue smoke coming out of car 19. He's got Todd Kelly all over the back of him. And Todd ignores the chicane as well. And we'll have a look up at the inside of turn 11. So 9th and 10th The other Kelly Racing entry is behind them.
Green tyres, mate, not green tyres.
Of David Reynolds.
Back then, so they are
Rick Kelly also comfortably inside the top 10. He's 5th. Greg Murphy, the Pepsi Max crew of Kelly Racing, is in 4th spot. As Lee Holdsworth has got past. So, top 10 is Whincup, Winterbottom, Holdsworth, Murphy, Rick Kelly, James Courtney. Great job. Back up to 6th. Steve Owen, Russell Ingall, Jonathan Webb and Todd Kelly. Lowndes has rejoined in 20th spot.
Greg Murphy's doing a good job because remember we saw that left-hand front tyre had to stay on the car. So his performance based on leaving that old tyre on the car for 2 segments of the race is very good.
If you wanted one to jam, that'd be the one you choose because it's not doing much.
So this is a pretty healthy battle with just over 10 laps to go. And this will be on for young and old as the 2 guys that don't actually get on that well, but 2 of the very best drivers in the field in the closing laps.
Skate, I've got Danny Prio down here with me, mate. Firstly, good stint earlier on, but you don't look overly happy the way things are playing out now this back end of the race.
No, the rules are changing constantly, and you know, this is not a race now. I mean, we're driving a completely different racetrack. The guys behind, I've seen 3 or 4 places lost with Craig just because the guy's just gone. He hasn't even attempted to go around the corner. There's going to be a massive shunt. And I mean, I'm very impressed with V8 Supercars. It's such a great championship, but today has been ruined by a stupid rule. And we just, you know, got to take it on the chin. I feel sorry for Craig because his championship's on the line here, and clearly it's different rules, different game for everybody else.
All right, mate. Thanks for the heads up.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Well, let's concentrate. Rules are rules, and that's the way it is, unfortunately. But this battle is a really good one, and we'll be able to ride it all the way to the finish. 12 laps remaining of this race. Whincup does not want to let Winterbottom pass. He's closing the door at every opportunity. Sebastian Bourdais is now starting to pace around the Team Vodafone garage, and Winterbottom is looking for every opportunity. He's given him a couple of taps, just little ones. Tim Edwards, Ford Performance Racing, head honcho. Still looking for Frosty's first race win of 2011. Another lap done through turns 1, 2, and 3. So many times Winterbottom's had a look there, and
big moment. That was a big moment. Locked the rear brakes, and the drivers call it backed it in. So basically it's like pulling the handbrake on, and it slid all the way to the apex. So Whincup clearly in some brake trouble, and Winterbottom right up behind him. He had a look down here last lap. He made gentle contact at turn 11. You can see there that Whincup partially blocked through the little kink there before the braking area. And this is as close as it gets. Mark Winterbottom should win this race. I mean, the speed of the car is good enough now.
He's had it for some time. Even on the previous tyre set, hasn't he? He's showed that he's had enough pace. It's just whether he can get track position.
And that's been the key. Richard Lyons could well become another V8 Supercar race winner after we put a race win next to the name of Sebastian Bourdais yesterday. Joined the list.
Looks like the rear tyres are hurting to the extent on Jamie's car that it might be diminishing returns for him anyway.
Jamie Whincup trying to hold on for what would be his 50th career win. Mark Winterbottom trying to nudge ahead for his first victory of the season. It's been a hard season for Ford Performance Racing. They're starting to come good, absolutely.
We saw Whincup withstand this incredible pressure from Van Gisbergen last year. It was one of the best races we've seen, and this is shaping up.
Go, 9 to go. Just doing what you're doing, mate.
It's just
looks like
mind-boggling how they're just matching time for time after lap for lap. 1:11.73, 1:11.66 for Winterbottom. It's been that way for, I don't know, the last 20-odd laps. And it's just been extraordinary how close they are again. Again, he has a little look on the inside. Again, Whincup says, no, not this time. Under 10 laps remaining. Mark Dutton. Back to the Ford Performance Racing crew. So they're both nervous. They both know they've got the best man for the job here. Oh, now he goes.
Yeah.
And he gets it done. Winterbottom takes over the race lead. Under 10 laps to go.
Very good pass.
Probably a smart move by Jamie, who at the moment's got a big championship focus. He knows exactly what the rear tyres feel like on that car. And ultimately, if you push the point, and he actually locked the brake a little then, Whincup, if you push the point, you might end up with thing in the wall or finishing buried in the field. At the moment, a podium is a likelihood. And we are now at the serious end of the championship, and Matt Nilsson there, Teco, in the middle, getting all wound up. And they've been through a tough period on the soft tyre, these fellows, so they'll be very pleased to see the fruit of their hard work back at the shop to get the most out of these tyres on their cars.
8 laps to go. Stay on his tail if you can do it safely.
Back through the field we go. So Lee Holdsworth currently on the podium as well. Great job, great recovery job for James Courtney and Darren Turner. Back up to 6th. Car's a bit battered and bruised. Look at that, started 23rd. Then they had to serve a penalty which they vigorously denied of curb hopping. And now they've inside the top 10.
Well, if you think where they started and with the drama with the curb hopping, he's gained 17 spots, so it's been a really good run for James Courtney. And this is a pretty lively battle here because Rick Kelly just in front, Russell Engel just behind. And you can see that group there with Steve Owen and Jonathan Webb and Todd Kelly all right in behind Rick Kelly. So basically from 5th through to 10th.
If Mark Winterbottom, and there's Oliver and his wife Renee. Oliver's a bit distracted by everything other than what his dad's doing at the moment. If he can get this done, he'll become the 9th guy to see his name on the list of winners for 2011. And it'll be first win for him in this season. It's not done yet though, still a lot of work to do.
It's Jonathan Webb and Russell Engel, car 19 and 39, positions 8 and 9. Todd Kelly's part of that pack. Steve Owens leading it in 7th spot.
Mate, doing a great job. Have a drink.
So on lap 96, out of 102, Mark Winterbottom has had 5 third placings this season. Today, he's a handful of laps away from a breakthrough win in 2011.
He's on board now with Steve Owen. Looking back at the Mother Energy Falcon of Jonathan Webb. Another guy that we haven't made probably enough fuss of today in terms of doing a really good job is Lee Holdsworth. He's always been competitive around here. The team have done a good job on the street circuits. We've seen him at Sydney going very well, and to be right up in behind, he's only he's 3.5 seconds behind Whincup, so he won't be able to do much more, but it's been a very good run, and getting by Murphy a couple of laps ago has put him up onto the podium. So a very good job from those guys. They always punch above their weight. They're a relatively small team. That's the team owner, Gary Rogers, and he'd be very impressed with how Lee's driven today and how they've tuned that car to be more competitive today versus yesterday. So Winterbottom, Whincup, Holdsworth, Murphy, Rick Kelly, Courtney, Owen, Webb, Ingle, Todd Kelly. That's your top 10.
2 trips to the podium so far this season for Lee Holdsworth. Second on Sunday in Hamilton and second on Saturday at Winton. Greg Murphy at this stage is just 1 spot off the podium with Oliver Gavin. Of course, the Dan Weldon Memorial Trophy to be presented at the podium for the best performed international driver. There's been quite a few. I mean, obvious choice, Sebastian Bourdais has done a ripper job from the front of the field. Gavin, I'd say, has certainly put his hand up to be welcomed back with open arms next year. Darren Turner did a good, solid job on a late call-up under trying circumstances. There's quite a few, and again, Patrick Long yesterday in particular with Fabian Coulthard. Today was a bit of a harder run. And Joey Hand also with James Moffat. So we've got some guys here who haven't been here before who will certainly come back and join us in 12 months' time.
And probably overall, I think Neil would agree that most of the guys overall have done a better job this year, haven't they? I mean, the international guys have driven the car, they've applied themselves really well to it. Much more competitive than I actually thought they would be.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that we've openly questioned all day is the pressure for some of them in the bottom half of the field off the start of having to deal with all the congestion and the difficulty of cold tyres, full fuel, all that stuff. That was the reason why we were saying maybe there was another way of going about it. But all in all, it's a very, very difficult task. I mean, you can take drivers from all kinds of categories and you switch them around, and it's almost like starting again. You can bring a big portfolio of information with you, and big long CV, some great things in your career, and it doesn't necessarily translate. I mean, you can take our guys, for example, who we all know who they are and how accomplished they are, put them back in a Formula 4 as an example. They get smashed by the little guys that run around in that category. They just know their cars inside out, how to set them up, how to get the most out of them. So it's always very difficult, especially when you play the one-off game. I think the guys that have repeated their visits down here now, a little bit either in the other enduros or this one. I just bumped Elio a moment ago, and they had a broken rear anti-roll bar with that car, but he was saying he's just so much more comfortable in 2011 than he was last year, just because he knew what to expect.
A lot of those guys who were here last year said exactly the same thing, relaxed, finally feel comfortable in the car. Russell Ingall here with Todd Kelly behind him and Jonathan Webb are going to continue this scrap all the way to the finish. The day started out, of course, with a safety car halfway through the first lap. Oh, and there was contact. How on earth that didn't end up in the fence, you'd never know. That's down there at turn 11, so Todd Kelly comes up alongside the enforcer, whack, whack.
It was wheel to wheel, that's why there's so much force there.
Rare you get away with that and continue to keep fighting. The car that's straight, so Ingall's defending 8th spot.
Tim Slade buying into the back of this, you can just see him in the bottom of screen then, and he's up the inside of Jonathan Webb.
8-2 to go.
Here you go, side by side, Tim Slade and Jonathan Webb. A drag race down the front straight. Ingall goes through, Kelly follows. What used to be turn 1, 2 and 3 chicane. Given up on that.
Smooth, Jonathan, nice and smooth.
But Slade looks as though he's going to get him. Oh, not this time. Thought he had just enough drive on the exit there to have a look up the back straight. Up, bounce, through they go. David Reynolds tucked in behind them in 12th spot with Alex Tagliani. And I think it's also prudent to mention the stress and the trying circumstances that guys like Alex Tagliani and Ryan Briscoe and co have come out and delivered here just a week after the tragedy at Las Vegas, losing one of their very good friends Alex did a very good job at the presentation at the tribute yesterday to Dan Weldon, so we take our hat off to Alex and co. And, our thoughts, of course, are with the Weldon family, the IndyCar family, and the motorsport family. With big family, we all feel the pinch when something like that happens. Mark Winterbottom is on the journey home. He had to do it tough. He waited and waited for his time to come behind Jamie Whincup. He's not going to stop. Nice and steady. Away he goes. Patience is the key when Frosty's behind the wheel. And good job here from Lee Holdsworth. He's going to be on the podium as Winterbottom brings it round. Ford Performance Racing are well and truly back in this game on the winners list. Mark Winterbottom and Richard Lyons.
Well done, fellas. Great weekend, great result. Thanks, Jeff. Awesome job, mate.
Frosty gets his first race win of 2011. Whincup second and Lee Holdsworth third.
Job, my friend. Excellent
And they
job.
celebrated FPR.
On the weekend, you think they might have cared about driver safety. They just have to read the writing on the door.
Good performance.
It's a bit embarrassing, mate.
A good professional race
great
win.
points, mate. Great drive all weekend.
And he's going to let it all hang loose.
Fantastic.
Tim Edwards celebrating in the middle. So Richard Lyons joins the list of V8 Supercar winners. Now got an Irishman on the winners list. There he is. And it's a good feeling because there is a lot of pressure on these guys. Frosty's out of the championship lead picture, if you like, but the job for the co-drivers was, number one, give the car back in the right position and the right condition. And Richard Lyons certainly did that. Another stellar job from Jamie Whincup and Sebastian Bourdais. First yesterday, second today. And we've earmarked the job of Lee Holdsworth and Simon Pagenaud.
Winterbottom's come into this race today 563 points off the championship lead. This win that you can see up on screen at the moment gives him a 150-point boost. So he's one of those guys that we spoke of earlier in the day that's vying for these minor placings in the championship at the moment. This will help enormously.
So we have to go down to 20th position to find Craig Lowndes, who came into this weekend as a 100-point championship leader. DNF yesterday, caught up in the queue this time around and slots all the way back to 20th spot with Andy Prio. And James Moffat didn't have as much fun today as he did yesterday with Joey Hand, so as you'd expect, a few casualties. At the end of the day, there was 21 cars, 20 cars on the lead lap out of 28. Big crowd, perfect conditions, been a great day of racing. And congratulations to Mark Winterbottom.
Pit lane.
It's been a long time coming in 2011.
88 in pit lane.
His little boy Oliver's here to watch that one. His wife Renee. They've got some celebrating to do at Ford Performance Racing. They did a lot of soul searching heading into the Enduros. Find out why the results weren't coming their way. Familiar sight of a Team Vodafone car pulling in and heading up towards the podium. And the first man waiting is Richard Lyons.
You are awesome.
Who, remember, got a late call-up for that drive. Will Power was meant to be in the hot seat with Mark Winterbottom, and of course, given the circumstances last weekend, Will didn't make it down here. So Richard Lyons steps in and answers the call well. And he'll get another surfboard for his troubles. He lives in Singapore. He's an Irishman. Last time I checked, the waves weren't too good in Singapore either. Brett?
Oh, Matty, Mark Winterbottom over the moon. Congratulations, Frosty. First win of the year. That's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, man, that is awesome. What a place to do it. And the guys have worked so hard, Campbell and all the team. And our soft tyres have been our weakness, and we've got 2 podiums and a win. So, you know, the boys have done a fantastic job. And that was hairy. That was a lot of work. And, yeah, one of the great races. I loved it.
Mate, you hung tough and you got it done. Well done. And Richard, awesome, mate.
Yeah, you know, what can I say? You know, Frosty's just amazing. I have to say he's done an amazing job. FPR, I have to thank them for the opportunity of being able to come here and give me a great car, and also to my friend Dan Weldon, who passed away. I've done this one for you, mate. Okay, thank you.
Well done, gentlemen. Congratulations. Enjoy the podium as we head across and catch up with Jamie Whincup. Jamie, congratulations. It just couldn't hold Mark Winterbottom out there at the end.
No, Frosty did a great job. No taking anything away from him. We fought hard. Fantastic weekend all in all for us, but those boys had a good car. They deserve the win.
Yeah, very well done. And Sebastian Bourdais, boy, great success over this weekend. It's a second place today.
Yeah, no, it's a great day for Jamie. His championship hopes. Obviously, you got to think points in these circumstances. The race didn't pan out, you know, in a kind of a fair way, I have to say, because it was kind of how much you were willing to dare it with the chicanes and all that, and he did great. You know, you gotta think championship when things turn this way.
Very smart driving, gentlemen. Congratulations. Enjoy the podium. And Simon Pagenaud and Lee Holdsworth, boys, congratulations. Lee, hard work, but well worth it now.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. I've been waiting for one of these surfboards for years. Hey, Simon did an awesome job today. I'm so proud of him and our team, GRM, Fujitsu. What a great show today. So cool.
Simon, it'd be nice to take one of those Gold Coast surfboards home.
But yeah, it's the first time I've been here. I already have a surfboard. So thanks to Lee, because you know he was just fantastic at the end. I mean, definitely the fastest guy out there, and it's great to be part of it. You know, I'm really glad, really pumped about it, and hope I come back next year.
We hope so too, boys. Enjoy the podium moment.
Thank you, we will.
The internationals have had a lot of fun this weekend, especially those who take a surfboard home with them. The presentation coming up after this. What a race. Another great finish to a V8 Supercar Championship race. Ford Performance Racing went berserk when Mark Winterbottom finally pushed past Jamie Whincup. And Richard Lyons, the Northern Irishman, was the first man waiting. And doesn't that just put a beautiful full stop on a wonderful weekend? So calm and serene out there, so crazy and fast and concrete lined around here. And we've delivered two new winners to the V8 Supercar Championship this weekend.
It has been a spectacular weekend on the Gold Coast for the Armour All Gold Coast 600. What a weekend of racing. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the Honourable Anna Bligh, Premier of Queensland, to say a few words.
Well, this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a huge weekend of sport, a great weekend of motor racing. Can I just say a big thank you to the organisers, a huge thank you to all the drivers and their teams, but most of all, a big thank you to all of the fans who turn out and make this event a great world-class event for people to enjoy. And I want to say that the Gold Coast has really turned it on. It is the Gold Coast that knows how to put on a great event, and they really shone this weekend. Congratulations, everybody. Let's meet the winners.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Queensland for hosting this magnificent event. Ladies and gentlemen, time to congratulate our winners. Would you please congratulate in first place Ford Performance Racing's Mark Winterbottom and Richard Lyons. In second place for Team Vodafone, Jamie Whincup and Sebastian Bourdais. And in third place for Fujitsu Racing, Lee Holdsworth and Simon Pagenaud. Representing the winning team, Ford Performance Racing, Tim Edwards. And to make the presentation firstly to third place, the third place trophy presented by the Honourable Mr. Phil Reeves, the Minister for Sport of Queensland. Presenting to second place from our major sponsor, Armour All, the General Manager, Mr. Paul Blair. And to present the team's trophy, Queensland State Manager of Armour All, would you please welcome Mr. Paul Lawson. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, an important trophy here. The inaugural winner of the Dan Weldon Trophy is Sebastian Bourdais. And to make the presentation, would you please welcome back Anna Bligh, the Premier of Queensland. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2011 Armour All Gold Coast 600 race 22 winners. Would you please congratulate them?
A very poignant moment for Sebastian Bourdais, who's achieved so much in his motorsport career, and he took a deep breath to accept the Dan Weldon Memorial Trophy for the best performed international driver.
As you all know, it was a pretty heavy hard weekend for all of us, the IndyCar drivers. As soon as I landed on Monday, I heard the news. The race was already over, and I think it's been a great showing for Dan. I'm sure he would have loved it, and I'm so sad he wasn't part of it this weekend. So this means a whole lot, and thank you.
Congratulations and thank you, Sebastian Bourdais. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please congratulate our winners?
Well done, Sebastian Bourdais, and well done to the entire field, in fact, especially our international drivers, for coming out here under such trying circumstances. And I reckon doing exactly what Dan Weldon would have wanted them to do. Get back to motor racing, enjoy the spoils of victory. And that's exactly what Mark Winterbottom and Richard Lyons have done. And a terrific weekend for Sebastian Bourdais and Jamie Whincup, especially in terms of the championship. Remember, Whincup was 50 points adrift of Craig Lowndes. Now he's 143 points clear as we head to Tasmania, Sandown, and finish off the season in Sydney. And Mark Winterbottom has gone up a spot too, courtesy of maximum points out of that. And Lee Holdsworth also on the podium there, goes up 3 spots to 8th inside the top 10 on the championship.